Some experts are voicing concerns that the US dollar could be on a path toward instability. New research has emerged suggesting that gold could be a hedge against a weakening dollar. Economic uncertainty means you have to keep up with what's happening. Make sure you subscribe and we'll keep you in the know. Some experts say the dollar is at risk of suffering some degree of instability. And if that happens, America has no one to blame but itself. As economists Stephen Kamin and Mark Sobel recently put it, the big threat to dollar dominance is American dysfunction. Part of that dysfunction, some analysts say, is rooted in the insistence of U.S. leaders to use the dollar as a weapon of sanction enforcement against nations deemed sufficiently out of step with U.S. foreign policy interests. However, geopolitics represents just one reason why some nations may be lowering their exposure to the dollar, which has seen its share of central bank reserves fall 20% over the last 20 years. Another reason experts say countries may be turning away from the dollar is that they've had enough of the nation's ever-worsening fiscal outlook. Per the latest projections of the Congressional Budget Office, the gross national debt, now approaching $35 trillion, is on track to surpass $56 trillion by 2034. That would be an increase of more than 60% in just the next decade. As for the annual budget deficit, that's projected to reach $1.9 trillion and a whopping 7% of GDP by the end of fiscal year 2024. For perspective, note that annual deficits over the last 50 years have averaged just 3.7% of GDP. According to economists Kamin and Sobel, an unwillingness on the part of the U.S. to tackle its unsustainable fiscal path potentially could lead to an especially dire outcome. The dollar's global role would plunge, and market disorder and volatility would explode. This makes gold's history of performing resiliently at times when dollar weakness is in full effect even more relevant. Going back to 1971, the year President Nixon completely removed the dollar from the gold standard, the World Gold Council recently isolated 8 periods during which the dollar experienced a prolonged contraction. Each of these periods lasted an average of 22 months. During these stretches, the Council concluded that the dollar, as represented by the U.S. dollar index, declined an average of 23%, while gold rose an average of 52%. What's more, in its research, the Council found that since 1971, when the dollar had declined by at least 10% over a 6-month period, gold's average return over these same periods was 14%. Here's what we don't know. We don't know where gold is heading exactly. Here's what we do know. We know central banks, big money managers, pension funds, retail financial analysts, and more are buying gold. The question is, why? That's why I suggest you take the time to learn more about what's really going on in the economy by attending our exclusive one-on-one web conference at AugustaPreciousMetals.com/webconference.